guys, welcome back to another video. Now in today's video I will be discussing all of the reasons why everybody is saying it's a really bad time to come to the UK and the possible solutions for them. Now I think that over the last few months there's been a lot of negativity going around UK, and obviously a lot of it has come through many YouTube videos, a lot of people blogging about how it's become progressively harder to live in the UK and work in the UK as our NHS professional. And obviously because most of us are healthcare professionals, we do come in the UK to specifically work under the NHS. So in today's video, I will be tackling all of the reasons why many people suggest that it's really bad to work in the NHS in the UK right now as an international sort of healthcare worker, and what is it that you could do as a healthcare professional to possibly work well in the UK but also make up some good finances for yourself. So if you are interested in this content, do not forget to watch it all the way to the end. But before we move back ahead, if you haven't already followed me on Instagram, and my handle is Physiotherapy in UK, do follow me over there because I release daily updates which will help you to definitely live a better life but also keep on top of most of the updates related to the UK as a healthcare professional. So let's dive right into today's content. Okay, so now one of the first reasons why a lot of people are leaving the UK right now is everybody is obviously saying that the recession in the UK is at a peak, the cost of inflation is really high, and it's becoming progressively harder to live in the UK because of the cost of living crisis. Now, all of these are fair, valid points, but this is the sort of point of view that I want to share with you to sort of help you understand. So firstly, think about it this way. In which country has the cost of living ever stayed the same over the last year or so? Whether it is India, because obviously I come from India, whether it is India, obviously if you bought a packet of milk in 2020, it has gone up in 2021 and in 2022 and in 2023. So obviously UK is also facing this cost of living sort of increase over the last few years. I understand that obviously this has been quite a substantial increase in the last 2 years, because I absolutely agree with the fact that I have been here over the last 2 years and my cost that I've spent not only on rent but food and groceries has gone up exponentially. But think about it this way, that obviously every country is facing recession and every country is facing inflation. It's not only the UK that is facing this at the minute, it's also Canada, Germany, bits like those. But obviously there hasn't been as much conversation about those countries. So this is one of the points that I want to share with you. Keep an open mind, especially if you are thinking about coming to the UK. Now that doesn't mean that you need to be foolish and you do not need to plan your finances in advance. What I'm trying to say is you need to make up your mindset, because that's what's going to help you to tackle not only the inflation but also live a comfortable life, especially if you budget for yourself well in advance. So obviously, like I explained to you, recession has hit the UK. This is a universal fact right now. So what is the solution for this? Now, one of the first solutions that I want to offer you that I have possibly thought about quite effectively is think about where you're landing your jobs as an international healthcare professional. Now, obviously, if you are planning to work in a bigger city, for example, London, Manchester, Birmingham, these are cities where the cost of living is also quite high. Firstly, because obviously the rent within these areas are quite high, and secondly, it's also quite difficult to obviously commute because the travel charges right now have increased as of March 2023. So this is one of the major factors that you need to consider when you are trying to land a job in the UK. Now, obviously, when you are trying to land in the job in the UK, my recommendation would be try to land a job away from the city center. Because when you do that, obviously there's going to be lesser competition for you to find rent, which drives down the rent prices in the UK within that particular region. So that would be one of my first recommendations for you. So another reason that many of y'all obviously feel that it's getting really expensive to come into the UK and what are we going to do about it is obviously, like I've explained before, you can obviously think about moving out into the sort of areas that are away from the city center. But the second recommendation that I want to share with you about that is you definitely need to consider work and your sort of accommodation or your placement where you stay within a 1 mile or a 1.5 mile radius, because that would ensure that you would be able to walk to work and therefore you would be saving a lot of money on transport. So I would say if you are somebody who's going to be doing a more static position, whether it's in the hospital or in a clinic, you need to discuss with your managers quite well in advance where you will be working and choose your accommodation based on that. Now, I know of a certain trust, and many trusts in the UK actually, who offer you relocation costs when you come as an international professional into the UK to start working, because obviously these trusts want people to fill in their roles, and they have been vacant for a really long time. So I would say it's definitely worth having a discussion with your managers when you are offered the job, just to see if they are going to be able to sponsor you and also offer you a place to stay within the trust accommodation. Now, that being said, trust accommodation is available many times, not only for single individuals but also for families, but you do need to pay a certain charge. So be mindful about it. It is not free. And obviously, if you find a better rental rate somewhere other than the trust accommodation, do consider moving there for your own sort of financial reasons. Now, the second thing I want to suggest at this point is obviously work smartly. So obviously, when you come into the UK, like I've said before, there are several opportunities for you to try and earn more money while you are working over here. So say for example, if you are working in the NHS and you need to cover a Sunday shift or a Saturday shift, you will be paid around £13 if you're on the same band as me, which is at a band 6 level. So you'll be paid somewhere between 13 to 14 or £15 at the minute right now. But the same thing, if you had to do through an NHS professionals where you've already registered with them, you would be paid somewhere between 25 to £30, which is really good. But if you actually pick up the Sunday shift through an agency or through a locum work sort of establishment, you will be paid anywhere between 45 to £50. Do you see the difference right over there? If you worked within the NHS for a Sunday shift, you would be paid peanuts. Whereas if you got that shift from a locum agency, you would then be paid definitely much higher, almost £30 higher, which is quite a significant increase. So I would say think smartly about your shifts, especially if you are asked to do shifts on the weekends, because that's going to be a definite way for you to increase or boost your salary every month. So like I said, this was the solution for a problem that many of you all keep complaining about, that NHS doesn't pay enough. NHS is not paying enough to tackle our bills. Be smart about it. Think about how you can work within the locum agencies or within the NHS professionals to make up for your pay. Because obviously, let's be honest, each of us have 24 hours a day for 7 days a week. But it's about how we use that time that will help us to boost our finances in the UK generally while we are on the work visa. Now, one of the third reason that obviously many people are concerned about coming into the UK is again the cost of living crisis. Now, again, when thinking about the cost of living crisis, many of you all have said that obviously I wouldn't be able to enjoy the UK, or I wouldn't be able to eat good food once I come into the UK because NHS is paying quite low salaries. And let me just inform you that you're not coming into the UK to enjoy yourself. Obviously, there is that, but you're also coming into the UK to work hard and build up your money or build up your finances for yourself. So I would say whenever you come into the UK, learn some basic cooking skills. I did not know cooking. It was really hard for me to adjust. But if you are from any sort of Asian country, you would know that you need to have some basic cooking skills in order to survive in the UK. Trust me, if you cook food in the UK, you can manage your grocery budget between 20 to 30 pounds a week, and that is really good, including if you want to eat non-veg or if you are vegan and things like that. So it's going to be a reasonable budget for you to keep yourself about 20 to 25 pounds a week within your grocery budget. But make sure that you cook food at home. Obviously, you can treat yourself and have food from out once in a while, but like I said, if you want to save money and you want to cut those costs, definitely consider cooking at home, because that's going to be another brilliant way for you to save money in the UK. Now, one of the fourth reasons that a lot of people have said on the internet that they are leaving the UK is the NHS strikes. So let me just remind you that obviously many NHS professionals, including nurses, physiotherapists, paramedics, ambulance staff, etc., had gone on strike over the last 3 months or so. And these strikes were mainly to ensure that we get paid an adequate amount, especially keeping in mind the rates of inflation. Now, again, many of you all have contacted me on Instagram and on YouTube saying, is it a bad time for us to come into the UK, especially because there are many NHS strikes going on? So let me just establish this right now very clearly. The strikes and the recession has no correlation to you coming into the UK. Whether you come into the UK, you are not going to be paid lesser or more based on the strikes. Obviously, the UK government last week has suggested that they are going to provide the NHS with a pay rise of nearly 5% in the next year. Now, obviously, if you watched my previous video, which I'm just going to leave the link for right now, you would have known that all of this information is now gone back to the unions of the individual sort of professional bodies, and they will decide if they want to accept this or not based on the members within those unions. So I can't assure you that this pay rise is going to be applicable to you, but I just want to reassure you that this is not a bad time to come into the UK based on the NHS strikes. If you want to come into the UK and work as a healthcare professional, this is just as good a time as any, despite of the strikes. Because the strikes don't influence you, don't influence your work, and they definitely are not going to influence your monthly pay unless that goes up as a result of those strikes. So yes, this is just a good time as any for you to come. Now, coming down to one of the next reasons of why people feel that it's not beneficial to stay in the UK is the long duration of the ILR or the PR. So let me just help you understand this again. Now, I've made a video on this previously on how you can get your PR in the UK, which is known as the ILR, that is the indefinite leave to remain. But for those of you who are new here, this is a quick summary. If you continue to work on your work visa for 5 years, that is if you are a health and care worker professional on that visa, or if you are on the tier 2 general skilled worker visa, if you continue to be on that visa for 5 years, you will be given an ILR provided you don't have things like a legal case against you, you're not a criminal, you're not convicted of maybe tax evasion and things like that. So provided you meet all of the good categories, you should be granted an ILR within the UK. Now, obviously, there are many of them out there saying, oh, but you can get a Canadian PR even before you start working over there, or oh, you can actually just get your US green card quite easily. And let me just tell you this, if you come into the UK, you are coming based on you landing a job from your home country. Now, that means that obviously when you land in the UK, you're obviously granted a job because you've already landed that in advance. But that also means that you will be paid a salary in the UK as soon as you start working within the UK once you land. Now, which country is giving you that guarantee? Because I know for a fact that even if you've granted the guarantee of landing a PR in the Canada, you really need to go there, struggle, do the entrance exams, and then start working in the job. But that means that in the UK, at least when you land, you start working, start getting a job, start getting the salaries within your accounts. And obviously, when you work for 5 years, there is a higher chance of you just landing that PR without you even doing anything. So I would say, what is the harm in doing that? You're anyways getting your salary, you're getting the opportunity to experience a new country. And obviously, if you want to settle here, you're getting your sort of ILR within the next 5 years, which is not a bad thing as compared to some of the other countries where you do land your PR, but then once you go there, you face financial difficulties because you don't have a job in hand. So keep this in mind, especially for those of you who keep asking me about differences between US, Canada, and the UK. And finally, coming down to the last point of this video is the registration. Now, I don't know if many of you all know about this, but please, if you haven't watched this already, do follow me and do watch these videos on my YouTube channel, because my playlist on HCPC talks exactly about what is the application process for registration within the UK for many healthcare professionals. But just for you who don't know about this, for example, if you are in the US or in the Canada, you need to pass through a series of tests, or you need to give exams in order to get your registration and your licensing so that you can work in the Canada or in US. Now in the UK, it's not that bad. For example, if you submit all of your documents in line, if all of your university competencies are accurate, and if they've gone in along with your application, you will be granted your HCPC registration so that you can start working in the UK. Now the cost for all of this right now, I think, is less than £1 lakh in Indian rupees, and I can be wrong, but it's definitely not more than 1,50,000. Whereas in the Canada or in the US, because the process is so long, you need to keep paying fees at every sort of interval and stage. So I would say that coming into the UK is a much shorter process. You do not need to give an exam unless your university competencies are not good, or unless you've not filled a good enough HCPC application. But like I said, if you have difficulties in filling that HCPC application, definitely take a look at my playlist. But also, if you need, book a one-to-one session with me, because I can help you with those. But yeah, I just feel like coming to the UK in terms of registration is really easy as compared to some of the other countries that we've spoken about in this video. So yes, that's it from me today, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you think obviously that there is some information that I need to update, or if you think that any other country is better, let me know why in the comments below, and I will get back to you. Take care, guys. Bye.